Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. My name is Lukas and usually you will find me here in this studio talking about Taiwanese related news in local and international media. And although I try to add my personal touch to these news presentations, I also try to avoid giving you my personal opinions and my personal comments about these news. But today is not one of those days, because today I just wanted to sit here and just have a more casual chat and for once let you hear my 100% personal opinions about the current situation with COVID-19 here in Taiwan. And although this has been said countless of times on this channel before, my personal opinion is probably not something that you should be listening to, simply because I most of the time have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you, just like me, have spent the last 2 weeks more or less locked down in your own apartment and is just simply desperate to hear someone else's voice, then please do join me here for the next couple of minutes where we will be talking about how we have survived this lockdown up here in Taipei. Okay, I shouldn't actually call this a lockdown because we are technically only in level 3, but today, as I am recording this, the Taiwan government actually informed everyone that there will be a level 3 restrictions for another 2 weeks. Honestly, it kind of already feels more or less like a lockdown because both YONGHE and myself have tried to spend as much time as possible indoors. And it's not actually only bad things, because when you are forced to be inside more or less 100% of the time, you realize that you will have so much free time to actually learn a bunch of new things. For example, in the previous video I did with YONGHE and Wes Davies, we were talking about that a lot of Canadians and French people are taking up baking, and if that is something that you're interested in, I highly recommend R.O.C's channel, where he and Cole Fogel at least try to learn some new skills in the kitchen.
Hong Chao Road, please turn out okay. Hong Chao Road, please don't burn away. What the fuck is going on? This is a mess.
Up here in Taipei, on the other hand, we are still trying to avoid that scary kitchen as much as possible. But YONGHE has actually, during the last 2 weeks, completely redecorated our living room and turned a quarter of it into a gym. And he keeps telling me that if I spend only 1 hour per day in this area, then when the lockdown is over, I will be much more stronger, much more healthier, and feel like a completely new man. Not entirely sure how that will work actually, but that's more YONGHE's area. My personal lockdown habit so far has been trying to increase the quality of my live streams. If you missed yesterday's live stream, it's still available on the channel and you can go and check that out 100% in Chinese, where we actually are talking about some new things that we have or at least may consider taking up during the rest of this lockdown as well. Another new thing I have been trying during this lockdown is to save out a beard. I figured it is now or never, since no one other than all of you will actually see me during this lockdown, and hopefully I managed to keep this for the entire duration of the lockdown. And I also hope that this will work as a reminder, as an encouragement for you as well. So when you see this beard, you will know that I have not yet stepped my foot outside of this apartment, and hopefully you will find the motivation and the encouragement to do that as well, since I do truly believe that this is the single most efficient thing that we all can do together to actually together solve this pandemic once and for all. I am not only talking about YONGHE and myself, I'm not even talking about only Taipei or only Taiwan. Now I am talking about that the entire world is actually into this together. But although the solution may sound very simple, it is actually very difficult. Now, myself, I am very lucky I can just sit here in my sound and hopefully COVID-proof studio, continue making these videos week after week, and I think that this 2.5 years preparation of being a YouTuber has actually really helped, because now as I'm sitting here, it actually feels that I am talking to everyone who actually will be watching this video a couple of days from now, while in reality I'm just sitting here half past midnight and talking to myself into a plastic camera. Okay, I'm starting to feel that we're getting slightly off topic here. So Wes Davies, Cole Fogel, R.O.C, or any other Canadian who are currently asking themselves, what was the question? Question was, how do we actually get out of this mess? And the answer to that is together. And what I wanted to do in this video is to give you my personal comments and suggestions based on what I have seen from my family and friends back home in Sweden, and a follow-up to the video I made with Wes and YONGHE when we were talking about all the weird regulations that we have seen in our countries, which actually doesn't make any sense at all, but that I personally believe still needs to be followed. So if you watched my video from last Tuesday, if you didn't, now would be a great time to pause this video, check the link in the description, go and check my previous video with Wes Davies and YONGHE, and you know that I made the example between Swedish public events or cultural events and sport events, where sport events would allow up to 500 people in the audience, where public and cultural events only allowed up to 8 people, simply because it's 2 different government departments. Something, however, that I did not mention in that video is that for public transportation, there simply hasn't been any rules at all. That means that as many people as you can possibly fit in a train or a bus will still be able to fit. Another example from the same video is YONGHE's French church example. In France, they're implementing the same restrictions for everyone and limiting the number of visitors per church to 30. However, by implementing the exact same restrictions to every single one, this also turns out to be very unfair, since it doesn't matter if the church is built for originally 30 people or if it's a huge cathedral that can fit thousands. But although if all these restrictions sound completely different, I guarantee you that it doesn't matter if it's the Swedish Department of Sports, the Swedish Department of Culture, the French Department of Churches, or the Swedish Department of Public Buses. I'm not entirely sure if that's an actual department. And that is that all these restrictions are put in place with 2 of the absolute same goal. 1, of course, trying to minimize the risk and the spread of COVID-19. And 2, still trying to maintain such a normal life as possible for the entire population, including the public buses in Sweden that absolutely have 0 COVID-19 restrictions. Just imagine for a while that you are my parents who live in the middle of absolutely nowhere out in Sweden, 40 kilometers to work, and even during COVID-19 times, they do have to actually get to work. Imagine if they didn't have a car and were depending on public transportation, and then we do have our 50-seating bus coming to pick them up. The door opens, but the bus driver says that, yeah, we do have our 50-seat bus today, but due to COVID restrictions, we're only allowed to seat 8 people in this bus. And those 8 people all jumped on 30 kilometers ago, so now I'm not allowed to pick up any single one for the rest of the day. I do agree that that might not have been the best example, especially since both my parents are retired and they actually live so far out on the Swedish countryside, so there are no buses over there in the first place. But I do hope that you still get my point. If not, let me finish with a more relevant Taiwan example, something that I do urge every single one to follow. The entire country of Taiwan is now under level 3 restrictions, but those restrictions are restrictions. Those are not recommended actions. Those are not preferable actions. Those are the restrictions that the government has put in place. So just because the restriction is that you're not allowed to meet more than 5 or 10 people, depending on if you're in or outdoors, that doesn't mean that you're still encouraged to meet 5 or 10 people. If you do have the option to stay home all by yourself, or maybe you're lucky enough to have a French roommate as well, do not go and visit 4 other friends just because the government says that it's okay. Those are only the restrictions, and just because everything past that is not okay doesn't mean that anything below that is not okay either. For example, if you're driving a car on the highway where it's 70 kilometer speed limit, just because the government has said that it's illegal to go past 70 kilometers doesn't mean that you actually need to go 70 kilometers all the time. And if you are able to hang out with fewer people during these level 3 restrictions, please do the entire country a favor and do so as well. So please do keep in mind when you are seeing all these restrictions, it doesn't matter if it's a church, doesn't matter if it's a bus, doesn't matter if it says that you need to wear a mask every single time you are going out the door here in Taiwan. Those are the regulations, and I guarantee you that they are actually put in place for a reason. Does it actually make sense to wear a mask every single time you go running at 5 a.m. along the riverside for 1 hour all by yourself? And by the way, just for historic accuracy, I should mention that that was YONGHE's example, not mine. Probably not. But what if YONGHE would not have been wearing a mask and he would have met someone in the elevator on the way back up to the apartment? What if YONGHE would not have been wearing a mask and injured himself halfway through the run and would have required assistance to get back home? And what if that person helping him would have been a jet-lagged pilot recently out from his 3 days of quarantine? The point of this and this entire video is that even if you come across some of these rules and restrictions that may actually not make sense all the time. They are actually put in place for a reason. And that reason is to make us all work together so we can end this pandemic once and for all, and to make sure that we all, sooner rather than later, can all be together once again. And that I finally can shave off this lockdown beard that is already, after 2 weeks, starting to irritate me. And who knows, maybe by taking this simple link to my channel and give it out to a few other people, maybe we can actually stop this entire pandemic with some 人与人连接. Thank you all so much for watching. My name is Lukas. Starts with L as in like, ends with S as in subscribe. Please do both, and see you all in the next one.